All right, everybody. So just reviewing price action here from Monday, April 15th. We just had a watch list yesterday. So the first thing we're going to do is kind of look at how today played out, not just on the NASDAQ and the SP 500, but also across the other tickers we talked about. Then I'm just going to go to everybody and ask whatever tickers they want to get into. So, any tickers y'all have, be ready to put those in the chat because I want to look at some of y'all stuff too. And I can give you my thoughts on the ticker and see where I see it going and certain areas I wanted to hold and all that. But instead of even starting with NASDAQ and the S&P, I like to typically start with DXY. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull DXY up right now, and we can start there. So we've been talking about DXY rallying, and it absolutely continues this rally. Once again, I have a target of taking it up in the head around 106.69 area, just the high 106 point. Just call it 106.7, right? If you went around. So that's why I have DXY going, just up in the head on the monthly. Just you could say the monthly highest body. That's a first stop for me. So I'm bullish on it until we hit there. Any retracements I think will get bought back up until we hit there. So the thing about this is we've been watching DXY rally really, really hard. Right? We've been watching that since down here. My mentee's been with me. We've been talking about DXY up and down in this whole area. But for the free community, and if you're not in my free community, definitely check the link in the bio of this video. The free community, we've been really meeting for these watch lists since about here. And I told you out here I'm bullish on DXY, and it has not looked back since. It's been on a crazy tear. But what was the stock market doing? The stock market, meaning NASDAQ and SP 500, they was consolidating. And so when you see that happening, something big is gonna happen, right? Something big is gonna happen, and somebody's lying. There were even days where DXY was rallying and NASDAQ was also rallying. Somebody's lying. And what I've noticed is oftentimes DXY is the one that's telling the truth. Oftentimes if DXY is rallying, then shortly after you start to see NASDAQ and SP 500 take a big dump. But the thing is, we've been really patient. They've been going sideways. So DXY has been rallying, but the NASDAQ and SP been going sideways. Today, we finally got them to go to the downside. So we'll talk about what's coming next, but I still remain bullish on DXY. So let's start with that. Let's kind of set that tone right now. I'm still bullish on DXY going forward. And so I also expect bearishness on the NASDAQ and SP 500 going forward. So this area, I actually don't want to see and don't expect to see price revisit this area if we're indeed bearish. So this area is now balanced out. This is what we would call a balanced price range right here, right? This is all balanced out. I don't expect price to enter this big consolidation area no more. My expectation is actually to see bearishness fairly early in this candle. So I don't really want nor expect price to really press up too hard before coming down. If anything, if it does start pressing up too hard, I would actually begin to get nervous and say, I don't know about downside. I would be eyeing the fact that this could indeed be just a sweep to move higher. And I'm not even saying going back to all-time highs either. It literally could be a sweep to come back into the range and move sideways. Now, is that my expectation? No, that's not my expectation. But I'm just saying I'm keeping my eyes open to that reality. My actual expectation is that this current candle that we're opening up on futures with right now, this opened up maybe just an hour and 43 minutes ago. This candle, I expect it to, even if it goes a little green, just stay barely green before ending up flipping back red and coming back to the downside, because I believe that we're about to make a fair value gap like this. And this would be the ideal place for us to make a fair value gap if we want more downside. So we really would want to see that fair value gap right here, where I have it highlighted at now. So how do we draw them? Well, we would be looking at the high of this new candle that just came out, right? So we're looking at the high of this candle. If the high of this candle ends up coming up here, guess what I'm gonna do with my rectangle? I'm gonna move it up to where it's at. So it's all about the high of this new candle. All right, so all I'm trying to say is if I'm trying to create this fair value gap, I don't want the high of this candle to be much higher than it is right now. If anything, I hope we made the high of the day immediately. Like we probably already made the high today, and this candle only been open for an hour and a half. You feel me? And we could trade on down. So that's the goal here. That's what I would want to see if I'm expecting continued downside here on Nasdaq, which I do, which I actually do. And so this is the first objective for me to take Nasdaq to. I believe it will go lower than that. I actually put in the free community some time ago expectations on the Nasdaq, and we went sideways, so we never got to see that actually deliver until now. We might start to see it deliver. We'll see, but we've gone sideways since I made that production. We didn't go higher, so it's not like it got invalidated. It's just that I had put those downside projections out, maybe somewhere smack in the middle of this range, and we just stayed sideways until we're finally breaking it. As of this moment, we'll see what happens next, but I do expect us to come down into this blue area down in here, all right, which is me highlighting the weekly. This weekly red candle is my next destination for price. All right, I think that we will end up coming down into here. I will be careful about price around where my yellow line is at, that 17,606 on the micros of NASDAQ. I'll be careful around there, but I do expect continuation down into this blue area. And from there, I would expect to see NASDAQ potentially go back bullish. So this is what I had originally drawn in the community somewhere here. This is one possibility. And we have another possibility. This one would be a much more major, which I don't really expect this to happen, but this is also something that could happen in the market. Do I expect that one? Not necessarily, but my eyes is open to it. But the first arrow is something that I definitely see happening in price action right now. So I'm expecting downside into there. I'm actually in some swing puts into there. And for me, I would cut my swing puts. Like for me, I would be invalidated to my own self if we revisit 18,153 on the NASDAQ micros. So if we come back to about 18,153, for me, I would just cut. Be like, all right, it's not delivering how I would want it to. And I would have expectations that we may even push back up. So let's speak hypotheticals again. Hypothetically speaking, if we're able to create this fair value gap here and price action does this candle tomorrow, right? It looks like this tomorrow. We have a red candle. I would not expect this fair value gap to get revisited, not before we run these lows. So if we can have a red candle, I expect us to run these lows here before we ever touch this fair value gap. All right, so this one I will want to remain open. Now, if we run these lows, all right, we can see something like this happen. So if we run these lows now, this can happen. That possibility is also, but all I'm saying is if we're able to have a red candle today, the new candle, meaning like, the candle for Tuesday, April 16th, if this is gonna be red, then I would expect it to deliver to these lows here. And I know this is a futures chart and some of y'all, or a lot of y'all trade options, but let's remember that I also trade options as well as futures. And no matter what, I'm always going to chart on the futures chart because there's so much more information and it's so much more information without me going on a rant on that. So everything I'm saying here applies to QQQ. Okay, it applies to QQQ. So even today, when I was in my QQQ puts, I was watching NASDAQ's chart. I took profits based on NASDAQ's chart. I copped my swings and I left my day trade. My day trade, I took profits on it using NASDAQ's chart. So that's that. Expecting bearishness early. Let's look at what ES had looked like. And I'll go back to NASDAQ in a second, but you've seen ES deliver to our safe target. We talked about this being a safe target, which was the lowest daily body. It delivered and it over delivered. And we are now in a monthly bullish fair value gap here on ES. So, a bull case would be us using this. You can't ignore the fact that we're in a monthly bullish fair value gap. It's the first line of defense here, or for upside. So for bulls, this is a place where they may want to see price go bullish from. I just don't think we're going to, right? I don't think we're going to. I said this yesterday before today's dump anyway. I did say I do believe that we put the high of April in already. I do feel like the high of April is already in for the S&P 500. So I do expect continuation to the downside, but no matter what, we trade what we see. So yeah, I ain't, we don't fall in love with anything. We don't trade what we see. So that's that. Now let's go back to NASDAQ for a second and just talk targets. So as you see, once we deliver past, let me go to the hourly. So you see these relatively equal lows. This is what people will see as support, right? You see that I had something called SSL here, that's sell side liquidity, right? So all I'm doing is using that as a target for price. Once we blew past these relatively equal lows, which is most people seeing it as support, so they want to go long there, they're trying to take calls. But I trade moves that show when we're going to actually take liquidity or stop you out of your calls. So I'm trading this move down here because this is the smooth move. Notice that when we run liquidity, those are the smoothest moves in the market. That's why I trade liquidity. So taking, this is a place you could take partials. Me, I did not trim there because I also know that we were gonna, if we're running this low, we're gonna end up running these lows. And then on top of that, what did I say about fair value gaps yesterday, right? I said that fair value gaps are gaps. They are inefficiencies. They are something in the market that needs to be corrected. So this whole thing right here is the fair value gap. And if you notice, up until today, we only filled it out up to right here. So let me minimize the part that never got filled out. Notice we filled out everything until right here. So I said yesterday, I said, if we're able to run under these lows and these lows, then we're going to end up filling in the rest of this fair value gap. So for me, once we filled it in, that's where I sold my day trade at. Once we filled it in, and low key, then I caught swing trades. That's when I caught my swings, and that's how I played this move. But the targets were really easy, so just keep in mind those liquidity targets and stuff. I could finally delete these liquidity targets. I feel like they've been there since forever. Price was ranging for like 2, 3, 5 million years, but those are now finally gone. Oh, I actually need that for class. Low key, I'm running a mentorship class after this. I need to show them that too. My bad. Need them joints back. So word. All right, cool. So that's NASDAQ. Now let's look at some other things, man. Real quick. So remember I talked about in a range, delivery is not exactly how you always want it all the time. So yesterday, I did say that I was hoping, and in an ideal delivery of bearish price action, right? We are expected to use this fair value gap to go lower. We do give room in case we want to use this one for under 50% of this one. So if we were to come to the upper 50% of this, I would not believe in anything to the downside. Now, my mentees may know this because they may know what lesson I'm talking about when I reference this, and I know I got a couple mentees in here, but we would not, if we would have crossed over the 50% of this fair value gap, I would have gone bullish. Being in here and then seeing rejections is why I was able to play downside. Ideally though, we should have rejected the bottom fair value gap. That's why I was talking about this yesterday on the watch list. Now we pressed up a little higher before the rejection. Cool. You got to keep your eyes on it. But the thing is, like I said, it wasn't the greatest delivery in a consolidation. You kind of take what you get. So, without even really going into that move, all I can really say is it's important to notice that, and we're looking at the top one, right? It's important to notice things like market structural shifts. So you notice we definitely had a shift in structure here, and then you could buy this retracement and take it to the downside. And so I got to go over other tickers, so I'm not gonna go in super detail here on this 1 minute. But once you see we come into a 4-hour POI and you see the reaction we got, and we have a shift in structure like that, then you could probably start finding some entry patterns for you. Now, for me, I have ways of getting in without having to see a structural shift. I'm not really somebody that necessarily cares too much about market structure, like the typical market structure. I don't really trade like that. I have other ways of validating my price action, but an easy thing to teach people is market structure. So it's like, if you guys see a change of character, like, oh, we closed under these lows, then you could look to get in on the next retracement. Look how price came back into this fair value gap here. Rejected the 50%. That's the top of the move. Look, now you catch all this downside. Beautiful delivery to the downside. What a nice move. And here we are. So I just want you guys to keep that stuff in mind. You have higher time frame points of interest, and you can take your rejections based on those. Look on lower time frames once we get there. So yeah, that 4-hour traded here, but when you're ready to actually take a play, you want to make sure you're using the lower time frame so you can snipe an entry and have a great risk to reward. So Yeah, so I see a question that said, is that the US dollar on futures for DXY? Yeah, like DXY, you just type in DXY on TradingView and it'll come up too. So cool. Now let's look at YM. Everybody did the same thing for real. Remember I was talking about here, this nearest fair value gap? Well, we came into this one instead. So same delivery, and we got to our safe target. See, safe target, weak lows body. These are all things we talked about. So you delivered on this fair value gap instead of this one. Like I said, we give room for this. Let's actually see where price came to. What I say about the 50% on NASDAQ, right? I said as long as we stay under 50%, we should be good. You can see that here on YM. Price action do the same thing everywhere, right? It's the same thing on whatever ticker you trade. Price action is price action. And here we are. I never touch my arrows. This is the arrow I drew yesterday in class. Literally look at delivery on the Russell, and we still haven't touched this safe target. So I do believe there's more downside on the Russell because we're gonna end up coming. Let me not jinx it, knock on wood. But we're gonna end up coming to this weekly lows body. And I found it funny how look how they literally, it's like they traced over my arrow because this obviously wasn't here. And I did not trade the Russell today. But look how they literally traced over my arrow. Ain't that funny? That's crazy, low key. But cool. So yeah, that delivered well. Now here's the other thing. Where is your bias on oil? Where's your bias on oil? Well, you have to get that from higher time frames. So I told you guys that on a higher time frame, I believe oil is looking to come into about the $89 area. So at that point, anything going on lower time frames, for real is like you're looking for bullish. Yeah, Fiddy, I got you. After this chart. So when it comes to, if you have a higher time frame bias, you're looking for entry models on lower time frames. So if the monthly tells me we're going to come to the red area, which is what I believe it wants to do, I'm only looking for bullish scenarios. So as I scan the daily, I'm like, okay, we have met the daily objective coming into this VI. We've been holding this daily busy. We still are because we care about what? Bodies, right? Not wicks. Just checking. We care about bodies, right? Okay. So bodies are still holding that. But more specifically, yesterday in class, in our watch list, we said, yo, we may use this weekly bullish fair value gap to go higher. And so I said, look for, this is literally yesterday's class. Y'all can watch the recording. I said, look for a sweep of these lows and then a push up. We were able to get that delivery today. We swept these lows, meaning we ran under these lows, and then we pushed up, and then we'll see if we can get some continuation. I do expect delivery to the upside, but if not, I still want to see if price could hold this blue area before moving potentially higher. But I do want you to be careful trading inside of this range. But CL, I do want us to, well, not, I'm personally remaining bullish on CL, and don't forget we're still in a range. It could fluctuate in here. It might trade down into this wick a little bit. This is an imbalanced wick. It might trade down into this wick a little bit before going higher, but ultimately I expect it to deliver higher, especially if it could continue to hold this blue area. And if not, I'll be looking for entry models inside of the red area because price could come here next. After that, I would be like, okay, hold on, let me like see if I still have a bullish bias on this ticker. But for now, we're gonna keep trying these areas up to take it back to the upside. So I had a request to go back to YM. Yeah, this was YM. So this was the weekly lowest body. A lot of y'all know now that a safe target for us is target the lowest body in a swing point. Now this isn't the craziest swing point per se, but I just look at this as price went up, price went down, price went all the way up. All right. So when I look at this as a swing point, taking the lowest body there is a safe target. If we're obviously in puts or if we're in sells. So that was a safe target we had on YM. I hope people played that move into it. We've been talking about that move for a while. And I do believe YM wants to trade down into this fair value gap right here from November 27th. I believe it's going there. I don't think it's going to this one. I think it's going to the one under it. But we will see. Also, we have the opening of the monthly bullish fair value gap right there, and I believe price will trade into that. So just simply YM even coming into the monthly one, that seems like a pretty obvious target for me. So even just playing moves on the Dow downward into this area Seems obvious to me. Not to jinx it, but I would think it should get there. The only thing I don't like about it is the lack of fair value gaps on this move down, right? There's no fair value gaps on this whole move down. They're only on the top part. So the start of this move is fire. When I talk about the way a bearish delivery should look, it should look exactly like this. The way that it started, I could take a picture of this and put it in my mentorship PowerPoint slides. Like, this is gorgeous, but then I don't like the way it's been going lately. We're not leaving fair value gap, so I don't like that. But obviously, it's going in our direction, so that's good. Now, for people who trade gold, gold did not do what I wanted it to do. So everybody else has been following the plan. Gold is the ticker right here that didn't do what I wanted it to do. I was expecting gold to deliver into this, and it still might, of course, but I didn't want it coming too high into this fair value gap. Like, yeah, it's technically holding it, but the way that it's setting right now, I think gold goes higher right now. I think, my fault, I meant to highlight this. I think gold goes higher into this wick. So I feel like gold's gonna go into that wick next. What it does there, we'll see, but I think that's just a short-term target for it. But ultimately, for downside, that's not what I wanted to see. Now, it started off like what I wanted to see, because what I said yesterday was I'm expecting gold to use this blue area to run these lows. We ran those lows, right? We ran those lows, but we didn't keep going. I wanted it to keep going. It ended up sweeping it. So gold, I'm personally staying away from because I don't like what's going on it. It's not nothing that I feel like is ideal. But that pretty much covers the futures side. Now, for options, this is another thing that followed my arrow. Like, it's like kind of funny how they did that too. Like, I swear, y'all could literally watch a record. I haven't moved the arrow at all. But YM, what do we do with this 4-hour fair value gap? What was the plan here? I hope y'all are listening to the plan. The plan was, yo, we need to hold under 50% of this 4-hour fair value gap in order to deliver lower. And this is the first place I do have it going, which is the weekly lowest body here at 191.74. So IWM, which is the Russell, I do believe there's some more downside to even take it to the weekly lowest body. I have a question here that says, why did you say you don't like it when it doesn't leave fair value gaps? Great question. Fair value gaps show intention. Fair value gaps show real volume in the market. They show energy to get to a spot. So when we're not leaving fair value gaps, that's always extremely suspect to me, because typically, if you're not leaving fair value gaps, that's like fake movements to me a lot of the time. And all that tells me is that when, let's say this whole move down looked like this, right? Let's say I had a choppy move down. Choppy to me is when you're not leaving fair value gaps. So if I had a choppy move down like this, all I know is once we touch this POI, when we're going back to the upside, it's going to be aggressive as heck. It's going to be a really nice move to the upside, because all this is, these choppy moves, is engineering of liquidity, which means they're engineering stop losses. So every rigid move here, people are placing stops. There's a lot of orders, just a big buildup of orders here. And so when they're ready to go back to the upside, they're going to fly through that thing, fly through it, and just destroy everybody. So I always look for things like that. Like, the lack of fair value gaps tells me just as much as an abundance of fair value gaps. Definitely always watch for a lack. So yeah, good question there. So yeah, American Airlines did what we said. We said we want to hold this area if we want to see lower into that 1278. So we almost there. And you're very welcome, Brittany. We want to hold into that 1278. So I hope somebody took American Airlines. They went as planned. Apple, we said we could reject this green area and come on down. Beautiful rejection. That's doing what it needed to do. AI continues to dump. We said if we're going to keep going low, we should hold this area. We've obviously held it. And AI had a monster day. Look, they down 7%. I hope somebody took AI for real, because they went crazy. They down 7% today. AMD, my take on AMD right now, I'm going to follow what the NASDAQ is doing, right? So if I feel like there's downside in NASDAQ, I can see more downside in AMD. But I'm not trading AMD personally for a couple reasons. One, the downside delivery is not what I like to see. I don't think this is not, I call it signatures. Like, typical delivery is very repetitive, right? So if I'm looking for a downside move, it typically starts the same way and and plays out the same way. So if I'm looking at a downside move and it doesn't have those very typical behaviors, I don't want to participate in it, because then I can anticipate chop, I can anticipate potential reversals. I might be on the wrong side of the move, things of that nature. So I trade moves that look like what I'm used to. So AMD, I don't like this. Right, it's going where we said. We've been showing AMD since all the way up here. We called it coming back down here, but the way it's delivering is ugly. And now we're into this monthly bullish fair value gap that is actually, technically, if I wasn't bearish on the NASDAQ, I would say that this is a nice fair value gap to take to the upside. But because of the NASDAQ and everybody kind of giving me suspect feelings, I'm just gonna wait to see what price do. But if it had not been for the NASDAQ and everybody else looking like they got some more downside potentially, I would like taking AMD out of here back to the upside. And it still can happen, but I'll wait for price to prove itself. So what is proof to me? Proof is not only, obviously you could say, a market structure shift back to the upside on a daily, but I want to see the daily. If it's going to shift structure, it also needs to shift structure with bullish fair value gaps. It needs to have both, not just a shift in structure, because I don't want you to choppily shift structure. I want you to rocket out of it, right? That has shown me real intention to go back to the upside. Understand? And Coach Alexandria said, is that example of what you just said about lack of fair value as possibly forewarning an aggressive move back up? Yeah. And that's exactly what I'm saying with AMD, right? Like, if I feel like NASDAQ may have more downside, so I'm not going to be eager to get an AMD right now. But let's say I was bullish on NASDAQ, I'll probably full port out of AMD right now at this point, because like they came into a very, typically a highly probable fair value gap here on the monthly, and they have a buildup of liquidity that came into it. So when we're ready to go back to the upside, it usually is like this. I have a perfect example for y'all on AMD, because we played this play in my mentorship. I remember this, and it was actually this crap. It was what started the AMD run. So we played downside. I told everybody right here in this fair value gap, I said, we're going to take profits right in here. I said, we tapped into our weekly target, which is this fair value gap. Thank God we got out. Oh my gosh, thank God we got out. Because we caught a very nice play. Like, we made a lot of money on the downside here. Thank God we got out, because you see what the heck, this is the weekly chart. Let's be clear, this is the weekly chart. Y'all seen what happened, but this is literally what I mean. So I'm glad. That's why I like questions, because it gives me opportunity to like, talk about certain things. Look at this move down. There's no fair value gaps. This is just a disgusting choppy move down, right? No fair value gap is ugly. Look what happens when we're ready to go back to the upside. A move like this is what those moves look like. So that's why I say the lack of fair value gaps tells me just as much about price action as an abundance of fair value gaps does, And so we come into a bullish POI and we rocket the heck up out of there. And look at the start of that move. What I say the start of the move should look like. I don't just want to see a shift in structure. I want to see fair value gaps. So what do? We left 2 in a row. Look at that. And let me know if them things ever got revisited, by the way. But that's another story. They never even got revisited. But look at the type of delivery. That's how you know the true intention of what this ticker wanted to do. That's real. That's real movement. I don't need a volume indicator. I have enough with just price action itself. All right. So cool. So yeah, that's AMD right there. BA continues to deliver to the downside. But BA, I'm also like staying cash on, because there is a potential we could bounce out of this monthly bullish fair value gap here. There's a potential. It's down here in discount, and it's like, if it doesn't work, then I'm definitely talking to these lows. But I would stay patient on BA. It's been in a monthly consolidation. I would stay patient on it. There's a chance it could sweep these lows, come back up. You want to just be careful. It's been on a really impulsive move down. We definitely talked about taking this move down, and it's delivered. But now that we're at the target, for me, I'd stay cash personally on BA. So that was that. We talked about Disney. I took this play today. I hope y'all did too. We talked about this one yesterday. I waited for the morning rally. So here's another tip, because it's not about tickets all the time. It's really sometimes about learning the price action. If you're expecting a bearish week out of a ticker, expect a rally early in that week. Because how the heck are we ever gonna get, this is the weekly chart. Let's be very clear that I just came to the weekly chart, everybody. When you look at weekly candles, how do you think we get this top wick? You think that comes on Friday? It's a red candle. So the top wick probably came early in the week, probably on Monday, right? So what I do is I wait for that Monday rally, especially if I have a bearish bias, and all I'm doing is looking to see signs that we want to move back to the downside. So that's when I got in. When I seen signs that we want to move back to the downside, um, especially once I seen us fill this gap in. Once I seen us fill this gap in, I already knew what time it was, because we really, if we had real bullish intent, we would have never filled that gap in. Without getting too much into detail on that. So then I already knew. So then that's why I took Disney, and I do have it going lower personally. I think this move, this is on the watch list already. I think 109.23 is a place it could go to, and even lower for real. That's just I feel like that's a simple target, but I think it'll come into this weekly fair value gap again. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm already up on it, and we'll see where that swing goes. Obviously, I could have took profits, but word. So that's that. GE, we already talked about that potential downside, but everything is playing out exactly how we said. I was wrong about Goldman Sachs. I didn't realize though that they had earnings, and I'm not blaming it on the news, because I always say that direction is determined with price action, not news. I was wrong on this play because my direction was wrong. I don't care about, I'm not going to be like, oh, man, you can't predict the news. I don't say stuff like that. I literally analyzed this chart wrong. And I didn't realize they had earnings in the morning though, but they gapped up. Yes, they did come back down, but I was saying on the watch list, like, we may come into this blue area and reject back down, but nah, they gapped up at first. Now they obviously didn't go bullish necessarily, but still, I was still wrong. So I got GS wrong. Everything else has been good so far. Home Depot has been great. Home Depot, I think there's definitely, no, I don't like to jinx stuff. I think there's potentially more downside, because I think we're gonna come into this monthly bullish fair value gap. So if you're in Home Depot, if you took that play, y'all, I would say personally continue to hold it into here. At least this was the first profit target. Somebody had requested this ticker back on Home Depot was up here, I think, and I said I love Home Depot coming into this bullish monthly fair value gap, and we're finally delivering this. So you know, it's been playing out for you if you still in it. Whoever asked me for that day, I think you got a little more into it. Then you could be careful, because we could go bullish out of this area. So I say just be careful. JPM, I don't know if y'all took this. I said what? Remain open ideally. We don't want to come back into this gap if we're going to remain bearish. So what do we wait for? The morning pop. See how we gapped up in the morning? We wait for that, and then we can take it to the downside. I told my phase 2 mentees I'm really having FOMO behind JPM, because I really feel like it's going to go lower, but I decided not to take this trade. And so we'll see where it goes. You want to see it really accelerate past these lows. So I would look at the daily lows from today, basically, and see if we could close back under here on the hourly, and then you may see some continuation back to the downside. So I'll wait for hourly close under here, and then you can see a continuation more on JPM. They could obviously gap down too, obviously, but JPM, I think there's more downside. Meta, I did screenshot this, so y'all probably seen this in the chat, but after that rejection on the monthly target on all-time highs, right, is no price action to the left. So this is just more proof to you that price is predetermined. How could I see? This is not about me. This is about price action, because my mentees know this. My phase 2, my phase 1's actually learning this lesson next Monday. They're learning this lesson on how to get like targets like that on all-time highs. On all-time highs, how can I predict that we're going to come to this yellow line and reject? That's just proof to you. I'm just trying to open your mind that price is predetermined. It's predetermined, y'all. How could we guess it to the tick like that? Guess, quote unquote. But anyways, now we coming on down with Meta, especially seeing what we did here. I do feel like Meta will come back to these lows here at 481. I really feel like Meta has some more downside into 481. So I would say if you're in these puts on Meta after our target rejection, then I feel like you have some more downside there. I would want to see a bearish value get created. So if Meta tomorrow touches the low of Friday, April 12th, I would say just be careful. I wouldn't like that. Something you should like is if we don't touch the lower Friday, April 12th, and we continue to the downside. That's what you should be happy for. If you see that type of delivery, then you could be pretty confident we're going to end up coming to that target. On Meta, Riot, we got to the target, so I hope y'all played that. I played this myself personally. This one went 40-something% or whatever. I just got in at the end of this move. Just catching what after the daily rally, after the morning rally. See, 9:30 candle, we rally up. What do we tap into? After we rally, what we tapped into? This fair value gap, rejected it. Once I seen us trading back down, I took it into the yellow line. Now, what is that yellow line? What is the yellow line? You see these relatively equal lows, right? Why else would we be coming down here except to run out the stop losses that exist under here? Why? So they just, you don't even have to catch full moves. Like, I like to catch big moves, and I understand it gives us a thrill. But if you like somebody that just wants to get in and out the market, if you really understand when price is going for liquidity, you can catch some very simple moves. Like, there's no other reason for price to be coming down here, especially after creating a daily fair value gap potential, right? After I seen us make a high and start to trade back down. To me, I'm thinking ahead of time and I'm saying, okay, we're probably about to make a daily fair value gap. That means this candle for today has to be red. We're gonna trade to the downside. And why else would we be coming this low if we're not trying to run out the liquidity over here with these relatively equal lows? And so I don't, when it comes to relatively equal lows, by the way, for me, it doesn't have to be, some people like be looking at the cents, how many cents apart each low is. Liquidity is just about pools of stop losses. It doesn't matter if the lows are 1 or 2 cents apart or 3 cents apart. It doesn't matter. It's just a pool. You can see these are relatively equal lows. That's all that matters. So as long as we have these relatively equal lows, I know we're going to attack that. And so I just traded it into that. Once I seen us run it, I'm just watching the 1 minute. Basically, once I seen a green candle, I was good. I ran it, green candle come in, I'm good. Took my profits, we chilling. I don't have to look how we consolidated. And this is also proof to you that price always has an objective. Notice the run into the objective. And this is also why we trade liquidity, because look at the type of moves you catch. When we take liquidity, we tend to run there. We run to that liquidity target. And when we get there, what type of price action do you get? You get chopped. We're not actually doing nothing, because price always has a motive. Price has an objective. So once I met the objective on Riot, that's all we needed. So take note of that. Now you'll say, okay, I know what liquidity is. It's relatively equal highs and relatively equal lows on these swing points. Yeah, but then you realize, dang, there's liquidity everywhere. It's liquidity on top of these highs. It's liquidity on the bottom of these lows. It's liquidity on the bottom of these lows. It's liquidity everywhere, right? So the thing is, how do you know when price is going for what? That's what I teach people, right? That's where you come into mentorship, and I can definitely break that down on when to go for which liquidity, because you're gonna realize it's everywhere. You're gonna get flustered. Verizon didn't really do much today. It was an inside day for the most part. We just said we wanted to make sure that we can hold this green area, which is going from 40.37 to 40.53. As long as we could hold this, I would want to see Verizon trade down into 39.15. So I kind of want to hold this area if we're going to trade back down. This could be the top wick on a potential red candle, and then we can make a bearish fair value gap, right? So I'm on the weekly now, if you can't tell. So just thinking ahead of time, what we did today may have been just making the top wick. And if Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday could be red, this will end up being a red weekly candle into our target. But I really do think we're going to go to that target. It's just about how will it get there? Will it be tradable? Will it be a choppy move? Because just because you know where price is going don't mean it's tradable. Price could do this. It could be nasty on the way there. Do you want to be a part of that? I don't. That's stressful. And you know what options they got time decay through theta, right? So I don't want to be a part of that. So if it could deliver smoothly, yes, I do like Verizon coming down at 39.15. Why? Because the weekly chart told me that's where it's going next. The weekly chart told me it's going in next. So however it get there, hopefully it's clean, but the weekly chart tells me we should be going there next. And now that was really it for the ones we went over yesterday. Besides, Forex continues to deliver how we said. So I always gotta give a couple minutes of love to Forex people. Now we have this remained open. We still traded to the downside, like we said on Euro USD. That did what we said. British pound continues to do what we said. Freaking New Zealand dollar continue to do what we said. We talked about holding this area if we're going to trade down, which you saw today. It did that. And USD CAD, we said we're going to keep bullish. Ideally, this should remain open as we trade into this target up here at 1.39. So USD CAD coming out as consolidation, we were bullish on it inside of it, and we remain bullish on it outside of the consolidation because there's a higher time frame target up here at 1.39. And you have USD Swiss franc still bullish on it. Today it was just a choppy day, nothing to talk about. And USD JPY is the last one, and we talked about using this fair value up to go higher. So look at the delivery. If you traded Forex, USD JPY was a great day for you because it did use this to indeed go higher. So you had a nice bullish day coming out of that. So everything has done what we said for real. Bitcoin has consolidated right here, but once again, I do think Bitcoin will come back into this weekly fair value gap here around 59. That's where I have it going next. I think it goes there before anything else. So when you talk about liquidity, right? You see you have relatively equal highs right up in here, although we did have a sweep of these highs. Notice these highs right here. You see this wick? What did it do? Swept it, and then it started this move down. But altogether, there's a liquidity pool right here. So one day when we're ready to go back bullish, we're gonna fly past this. But right now, we're not worried about this buy side liquidity. Buy side is liquidity on the upside, right? We're not worried about buy side right now. We're looking to attack sell side. So we attacked the first set of sell stops, and I'm looking to see us attack the second set, leading us into this weekly fair value gap. So Bitcoin, I would like to see what it does inside of this, but just in the super short term, getting here is why I have it going next. That's why crypto, I looked at it when price was up in here. I looked at it and I said, okay, Bitcoin is going to make a move under these lows, which will potentially lead us to going under these lows. So my swing trade that I've been in on crypto, I took all my profits out and protected myself. That's why I sold Bitcoin up in here, because I knew based on what transpired in this upward area, my mentees may know why, I knew we were going to come to these lows next. So I say, you know what, I'm gonna lock in my profits. And if I could always get back into the play, but that was the logic there. So I know, a couple of people requested Bitcoin. Once again, my Bitcoin analysis is for us to come into this weekly fair value gap next. And I want to see how it gets there. What's the delivery like? What is it trading like inside of it? If it's not holding it, obviously, then I ain't front, that's not a good sign. Something that's not even a good sign in the first place is what it did here on the monthly. My mentees may remember this. I talked to them because I know there's a couple of them in here. We didn't want to see this. We didn't want to see April do this. The plan for April, for Bitcoin, for bulls, I'm talking about, the bullish plan for April was to have a green April. That way we could have a fair value gap right here, which would have been ideal. So there is no ability to make a bullish monthly fair value gap on Bitcoin right now, which is not really a good sign. That doesn't mean Bitcoin is just all of a sudden, bearish or nothing. I don't mean that at all. I think if it doesn't hold this monthly one, you got some downside coming. I'm telling you right now, if Bitcoin does not hold this monthly bullish fair value gap, that's not good. That's not good, because then you got Bitcoin probably gonna come down and back into like the low 30s. You feel me? So Bitcoin kind of has to go bullish in this monthly fair value gap here, which does overlap the initial place I would take Bitcoin to if I'm a Bitcoin trader, which is on that 59 area. But that's the next place I have it going before it's moved. But when I talk about delivery, look at the upside and the downside delivery. It's nasty and it's not really tradable. I'm just paying attention to higher time frames and saying, okay, based on this higher time frame chart, I would not be surprised to see it come to 59. So the weekly is telling me that's where it's going to go. That doesn't mean that I need to trade it. So that's that. Now I got like 6 minutes before I got class. mentees. So can y'all throw out some ticker requests? Can y'all throw out some ticker requests or questions? You know, whatever you got, ticker requests, questions, anything, y'all. Baba, Baba is like a stock that I will hate for the rest of my life. I don't think I'll ever like Baba. Yo, I don't know if I ever made money on Baba in my life, bro. I haven't traded it in months, don't get me wrong, but like Baba finds a way to take my money every time. I don't know why. This, look at it, look how it trades. Like, who wants to trade this crap? Oh my gosh. All right, let's go to the monthly, see what we got here. Check the DAT. That's coming down. So I always ask myself, like, where are we going next first? And based on how price is trading here on the monthly, I can only just simply say, I think the closest draw here on Baba would be to attack these nearest monthly lows. So, was that a 66.63? So that could be a first draw. And how would it get there? Well, so far it has rejected this monthly bearish fair value gap, and the next place it should go will be most likely right there. So let's see if the weekly can somehow support that. It's choppy as nasty, not a fan of it. I must admit, not a fan, but I still do think we trade lower into their next, as just a next target. So we're going sideways, right? I expect us to break this consolidation to the downside. And if we do break it to the downside, you want to see it deliver pretty much straight into this target. If it does retrace first, it shouldn't come back into the middle of this. If it retraces first, it should just stop short right here and come on down. But either way, I think it breaks it to the downside. If it happens to go to the upside first, gotta speak hypothetically, I would expect it to probably reject inside of this gap and come on down. If it comes on these highs, it'll probably sweep it. And I want you guys to maybe notice that I'm basically looking for nothing but bearish scenarios as I'm attacking a bearish target. So if I have a weekly bearish target here on the daily, I'm just drawing daily bearish scenarios, because no matter what, them lower time frames are just building the story for a higher time frame exit. So everything in here is just bearish daily scenarios. So it could be rejecting this gap, it could be sweeping these highs to come down, it could be simply going down right now, and this is the way it may go down, or it could just obviously be a straight hit. But I have a bearish bias on Baba just to come into these lows initially. Now, is it the super clearest? Am I super confident in this? Nah. Cause look at price action. Even on the weekly, look at price action. We're trading in a range, right? So I'm not like the fondest of it. The monthly is in a range. This is not pretty price action. I just am trying to keep it simple and saying, okay, we rejected the bearish fair value gap. The closest discount tool, or the closest like sell side tool for real, is those monthly lows. We may attack those. We're probably gonna attack these initially. So even just in the super short term, we're probably gonna end up running these monthly lows from February 1st. So coming here on the daily, I would expect price to probably be a red candle tomorrow, just to at least attack that 70.02. But we want to see continuation, obviously, to get to the next monthly lows. All right, so I hope that makes sense. See SoFi on here. Let's see if I could do this mad quick. Let's do this. It's like be like fun for me. It's like good practice. Like analyze the chart very quickly. So SoFi, monthly don't tell me much. I don't think I have much of a monthly bias right now, because I don't like I don't even know what we're rejecting up here. So I don't like when the monthly is in chop. Those things I tend to stay away from, because I like to do higher time frame analysis. I like top down. And you're welcome, Thunderbird. I like to do top down, but we didn't even reject nothing in here that I like. Down like this. This could be a sweep. It's technically still holding this busy, but nah, not a fan. Real talk, not a fan of SoFi. I don't like what I'm seeing on the higher time frame. So now I'm gonna look for targets here on from the daily. If we were bullish, we shouldn't be back down here. So I would assume that we're actually bearish. And so I would look for a run under these lows next. And I would even look into taking price to the lowest body down here on the daily. Ideally, we need to start creating bearish fair value gaps. So I would like for us to not touch the lows of Friday, April 12th. 4 hour looks good though. See, the 4 hours clean. 4 hours showing some bearish sentiment, bearish intention here. Like, notice we didn't even trade back to this. This is good. That's a signature I like to see. For example, we didn't trade back to that. So in order to go lower, I would like to see us reject this fair value gap in order to run these into these targets. So if we do trade up first on SoFi, I would like to see rejections here first. If we trade too high into this, then I would actually start to think it might start making a way back into this. All right, so basically on SoFi, we want bearishness early. Then let me do one last one. We got this. We got Cisco. All right, this is all nonsense. That's old stuff. Okay, so don't like the monthly, as you could kind of tell. Not a fan of the monthly. Don't tell me much. Let's see if the weekly cut. This is dirt right now. Ain't gonna lie, this is dirt, people. Even if you look at this weekly candle from November 13th, notice that we've traded inside of that. I would like to see us break either of these ranges before getting involved, but I know that's a long way away. So let's see if the daily could give us something, but it's just an unclear chart. So many better tickets out there. And you're welcome, Mr. Jarvis, by the way. So much better tickets out there that I just wouldn't want to get involved in stuff like this. There's so many more clear tickets to be in, you feel me? This is sporadic. There's no real logic here. I don't like trading inside of manipulated ranges like this. Obviously, based on how it's trading, it looked like it want to continue attacking these lows, but it's already so late in the move and stuff. I would say this: if we're indeed gonna attack these lows, we shouldn't come over this hourly fair value gap. All right. So if we do want to not just attack these lows here on the hourly, 48.16, but even coming into the lowest body here on the hourly, if we want to make that move, we shouldn't have an hourly candle close over this fair value gap. So as long as hourlies are holding this, then you may see a continuation into the yellow as well as the blue. So we obviously rejected it so far. So I would expect to see maybe a gap down, or price just remain bearish, but that's all it is. So yeah, you're welcome. Oh man, my mentee's gonna hate me. I'm here late for class. But yeah, that's really all I have, people. Man, I hope y'all enjoyed. Hope you guys see, like, everything we called out is really, it really has delivered. Like how we said, we missed maybe on a couple tickers out of how many we just went over. So everything is good. So definitely continue to tap into these watch lists, y'all. And soon I'm gonna release the signups for the mentorship coming out. New mentorship cohort should be in July. I will be doing master classes before then as well, if that's y'all should want to tap into. But definitely taking signups for the mentorship cohort really soon. And that's why I go into detail about everything. And something that I really do in my community is I build profitable traders. That's what I stand myself as. I build profitable traders. Like, it's not about giving call outs or nothing. No, I'm gonna teach you how to really just be self-sufficient. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely get with me. If you watching this on YouTube, check the links in the description to join the free community. And you see my Instagram down in there. So that's all I have for that.